All right, so let's call this meeting to order. Jeff, do you want to call the roll for attendance?
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner Langley,
Here.
and Commissioner Kiesling.
Here.
Okay. So second on our agenda, we have the Yasmin Stump agreement for right-of-way acquisition. Who's going to speak to that?
If Lisa is muted, I suppose that means I will. Pull it up real fast.
I'm
There
here.
she
You
is.
need
There
something?
she is.
Sorry.
Tell us about it.
Are you talking about the agreement for right of way for
Yes.
Yasmin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
We used this firm on another project that we had used. We retained this attorney for if we have any parcels to go to condemnation and go through that process. It's a very lengthy process. It's very time consuming. So we have found that it's better spent this way than tying up the county attorneys due to the time constraints on if something does go to condemnation. So the services will only be used if we have to go to that extent for the Vernal Pike right-of-way acquisition.
So how much of a parcel are we getting? Are we going to be having to take for the Vernal Pike thing? Is that the
Okay.
Yasmin? Yeah, go ahead.
So we have, I believe it's 6 parcels that all of them should be receiving their right-of-way acquisition packets by the end of August. Then they have, I believe, a 30-day response time to come back to us. A lot of times you'll have negotiations going back and forth. We already have, I believe, one parcel, and then I think almost 2 secured at this point. So it's not saying that any of our parcels will go to condemnation. This is just in case they do go to condemnation, then we have an attorney on board that's very experienced in the condemnation process. We hope it doesn't get to that point and we don't have to use these services, but it's just as a backup plan. We'll work with each property owner to try and negotiate and come up with an agreeable right-of-way cost. However, we are dealing with a federal aid project, so we're also limited on what can be negotiated, what can be approved, and so yeah, this is just, hopefully we don't have to use their services. It's just a backup plan in case we do. So to say it could be for 1 parcel, maybe. Could it be for 3 parcels? Maybe. You just don't know until you go through the acquisition process. And like I said, they'll have all their packets by the end of the month.
So are we going to be getting a parcel of Monroe's property?
The what?
No, Amanda Ray is here to speak on item 4, the North Park Tiff update.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is
Good.
Thanks for asking, Iris.
What?
Yeah, this is for the
Thanks
parcels
for
on,
asking.
Got it.
One
Okay.
here.
this is for the parcels for along Sunrise Greetings Court for
Okay.
the industrial. We changed the name. It's a Sunrise Greeting Court extension, basically. So
Okay. Well, I don't have the paperwork in front of me because I can't see it. I don't. So,
Lisa, can you tell us, since this is a contractor you've used before, or a lawyer you've used, attorney's firm you've used before, how often does that happen that you end up going to condemnation? I would think it would be pretty rare.
it is very rare. The Fullerton, I've only been heavily involved in the major road projects in the last 6 years of buying right of way. Those were very extensive right-of-way acquisitions, probably 26 parcels on each of those phases of projects. We had 1 minor condemnation. It didn't go to the full extent until we could reach an agreement on Hunters Creek Road. Fullerton Pike Phase 1 and 2, we did not have any out of those 26 parcels go to condemnation. We
Good,
reached an agreement. Sample Road East, we did not have any of those to go through a full condemnation. Sample Road on the west side, we had 2, I believe, go to condemnation. So it depends on the project, but it is very rare that they do go to that extent.
And maybe to add a little bit to that, this was also the firm that handled a lot of the I-69 right away for the state.
Okay,
So they've got a lot of experience because there were a lot of those.
okay, so this is basically an agreement, Lisa Ridge, for us to contract with them to help you?
Yes, it would be as needed if we get to the point of needing them for condemnation, that we would be able to acquire their services.
Because I can't see the paperwork in front of me. What are they charging, or what would be the fees?
It's hourly rates. Do you have those in front of you, Jeff?
I need to find that screen.
Sorry, well, I don't have it on my screen. I just have people's faces.
I think it's
I know the total.
$275 per hour for Yasmin Stump, and then $225 for senior associate services, and $200 per associate attorney services, and $80 for paralegal services. So it depends on who's providing the service.
Lisa Ridge, is there a maximum?
I do not believe that there is a maximum on this contract. The reason being is because it's, we don't know, one, if there will be any parcels go to condemnation. Two, we don't know at the extent of how far that condemnation could go.
Okay.
Some of them will end up in, they could end up in a court, or some condemnations end up in trial. We have not had any of that happen. So it's really hard to say what's the not to exceed, because you don't know how far you will get with negotiations.
Okay, fair enough.
Lisa, in section B underneath what Lisa Abbott just read, it does say the total amount of compensation paid to the law firm for services required under this contract shall not exceed $50,000.
Okay,
And I think Jeff and I had kind of agreed upon that because we went off some sample road items. And we were kind of comparing those costs. The only reason why I'm kind of leery on having and we can put it at the $50,000 limit is perfectly fine. We might have to come back for a supplemental. It's just hard to say because these parcels that we're dealing with on this project are probably a lot more expensive
right.
than with dealing with a couple of the businesses for the acquisition part. So I think I gave Jeff that number as a start, so we can see where we're going. And if we do exceed that amount, then we would come back to the board for a supplemental if needed.
Okay, sounds good. Okay,
I apologize for not having that amount to exceed because I forgot we had put that in there.
Any more discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve this agreement with whatever the title the company is. Sorry about that. I don't have it in front of me.
And I'll
To
second.
approve-
Okay, Jeff, you want to call the roll?
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner Langley,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling.
Yes,
Motion is approved, 3-0.
all right.
All right, next item on our agenda is the budgets presentation.
Are you wanting me to go through that, Jeff, or?
Absolutely. I can, and I,
I think it's pretty brief. It's pretty self-explanatory. So I don't know what you have in front of you. I can start with the 4920 West Side Tiff Fund. The only thing that we're allocating into 2022 is, of course, insurance, 3,000, I believe, yes. And TIF annual revenue cost is 9,000. And I think that is all, unless I'm missing a page here.
I think you're missing the STEM, 270,000.
Yeah,
And
the STEM should be in there. You are correct.
And the disbursement to bank line, which is 692,985, and we have $825,015 in the engineering and construction line as well.
Thank you. That must.
Oh wait,
next page
sorry, I
should-
was on the wrong wrong column, at $1 million in the,
Construction.
and then the disbursement to bank is 635,000. Sorry, I was looking at 21 and I should have been looking at 22.
And what's the amount for STEM?
270,000.
That's what I thought it was.
And
So
you go ahead, Lisa.
I was gonna say, I just got this like 6 minutes ago in my email, and I haven't clearly had a chance to look at it. Did we have to do any modifications to this based on what we've learned from annexation?
Not at this time that I'm aware of, Jeff. Go ahead.
I think what happens and how this budget is formulated is that we kind of use that engineering construction line as kind of a way where we would bring transfers to you from that line to a different line. And so if the revenue is materially affected, and again, I don't think it will be because of annexation, because annexation won't occur till 2024.
Right.
If we do notice a revenue shortfall and we don't have the balance necessary to cover expenses, then we just don't, clearly we won't do the expenses, but we'll make sure that Suzanne and the highway department make sure we don't spend more than we have.
Okay, I have one more question, and I just need to be reminded because I forget from last year, but you have a line in here for salaries. It says Act 2020 actual salaries, and I know that there's no salaries. So what exactly is in that line again?
That comes from our auditor's office. That's pre-populated. I'm not sure why they would have anything. I'm guessing that's actually their 2020 actual, what was appropriated.
Okay, but they just didn't. I think I ask this question every year. They just need to take that line out and they don't. Is that?
That's why they do the same worksheets, the same on all the budgets. And
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at these numbers and it seems like I'm not sure where the auditor's office comes up with those numbers. I can tell you that we don't populate those. Do you have an answer for that, Jeff?
Well, I'm trying to find, because I see the 11,000 per position, the insurance rate, but there are no positions, so there's no positions that charge would go for. Don't see any other appropriation in any of the any salary line.
Yeah, I'm just looking at those 300,000 amounts in Hart Strait, Vernal Pike, and Curry Pike Woodyard. So I'm not sure where they're deriving those numbers from the auditor's office.
Well, I think you better find out where they're coming from because
I can do that.
they don't necessarily have everything that you have. And I'm trying to find another place to find because I don't remember seeing the budget sheet at all. Because I went through that yesterday, or was it this morning? May have been this morning. I don't know, I've had grandchildren here, so they're all gone now.
We just got it, Iris, so you wouldn't have seen it.
Okay,
It came while we've been on, or
Yeah.
maybe right before we got on this meeting.
well, that's what I'm saying, that I don't recall seeing it because I know, that's what I usually look at.
And I guess we don't change anything on the budget each year. We put the same into the engineering from the estimated revenue.
Okay.
And we put the same what's anticipated in the insurance and the payment to the bank and for the TIF annual revenue. Anything that's remaining typically is split out by the projects. Now I'm going to confuse the water a little bit more. As you can see in some of the project lines, they're projected for 2022 as a 0. And as you're aware that we still have like Curry Pike, Woodyard Road, and Smith intersection still under construction. Those are now what we call grant project lines. So they have their own fund. So
They have their own budgets? They have their own budget? Is that what you're saying?
They basically have their own budget. You take from the other budgets, transfers or cash funds to pay for those projects because they're reimbursable.
Right.
The Smith Pike, Curry Pike just now became reimbursable in the last few months when NDOT stepped up to give us those funds. So we had to go through the process and set that up with its own grant fund through the auditor's office.
I see.
So when we are, we took the monies that was appropriated into these lines and put them as a balance into those grant fund lines. You probably don't have copies of the grant fund lines because those were just created in the last couple months. So that's probably something we need to work on our end of making sure you guys get copies of everything. Because that all just originated with all of our federal aid projects in the highway department. They should have been set up as grant funds in the last couple of years, and we just came across that they were not grant funds. I didn't know grant funds existed, never heard of them until this year. It's the only type of fund that can go in the negative until it is closed out. So that way you, since it's a reimbursable grant from NDOT, our federal highway project, federal aid project, we pay it up front, we might get, and then we get the 80% reimbursement from NDOT. So it's a back and forth payment account. So that's why you can run into the negative until you close that out, which is about 2 years after the letting date. So that's why you don't see any monies appropriated into those project lines, because now they're considered grant funds.
How complicated can we
Sure, I
get,
just
right?
confused you very much. I was confused for many months on this until we got this all set up, but it helps the cash flow. It helps the cash flow in these projects because you can go in the rear until you're paid back by NDOT.
I can see that, how that works. Okay, I finally found a budget on my iPhone, but not that I can read it.
You're tiny.
So do we need to set up some separate, not separate accounts, but maybe a ledger that has all these separate accounts in it? And so that we can see what we have and what we're going to be getting rid of or being reimbursed for, and what we owe. So we actually have to have a budget that has to do with our RDC, with what we have to pay out and so on.
Yeah.
But then we have to have these other ones also. But we could have one ledger with all those accounts in it, couldn't we? For us to follow.
I know we have the ledger set up with our financial manager. I could see where there's a way to simplify it so you wouldn't have every claim that you pay out, because ours is very, very detailed. So we match all of our records. But yeah, I can work up something to give you guys all those grant numbers, all those projects that's related to RDC for those major projects. Yes.
I think that would be wise, but then right now, I don't feel as if I have even a tentacle towards what we got and what we got to do.
That, but I didn't want anybody to think that we were not budgeting in these lines for these projects, because these projects are ongoing and we are moving forward and under construction with them. They've just had to be adjusted in a different way since they are reimbursable grants.
Yeah, well, I think we understand it, but it's just,
that's fine.
When you don't see it, it's like it's fake.
I'll get some
I
information.
don't want, pardon? What'd you say, Lisa?
I did. Christy, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask Lisa and Jeff if this was an item we have to vote on, and if so, when do we need to vote on it? So can we wait until the next meeting when we get the extra information, or is this a time-sensitive issue?
I think you can wait till the next month's meeting. I think the council's, I don't know where we're at on the council's calendar as far as budgets, but I know they aren't completed until after our next meeting. I think having that additional information is something you should have.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good to have a chance to look at it.
Okay. Well, Lisa, Rich, you have a job in front of you, or at least your staff does. Well, they're good. They do a good job.
Yeah, I don't think I can put anything more on them, but it's fine. I will get you as much information that I have and get you the account lines and kind of I'll do a little synopsis of, what's 80%. We pay 100% and get reimbursed for and things like that.
That'd be great.
All right,
Thank you. So we don't have to vote, right? So Jeff, we don't have to vote on anything right now.
No, I think next month was a perfectly appropriate time.
Good, okay.
So we're going to table this till next month?
I don't think you have to table it, do you?
Well,
Do you?
carry it over till next month, however you want to do it.
That's fine.
Okay, all right. I mean, you don't usually, I can't remember, do we usually vote on tabling something?
Well, if there's a motion been made, then you would, but I don't think we've made a motion to approve or accept or anything.
Right.
like this.
We'll just let it lie for right now and we'll move on. So we have the North Park TIF update. Jeff?
Yes. Since we last met in June, a few things have happened, and I know Amanda Ray's here, and I'll try to introduce kind of what I think her concepts are, and then let her follow up on it. But we met with Mr. Kreider after the June meeting, and I've spoken with him since then. I expect to have estimates for the completion of the Hunter Valley completion, road completion, and the kind of the, I don't know, it was number 2 on our list where it's basically taking where the road is stubbed up all the way to that 46 interchange that's a little bit north past kind of the Curry one, on the north side of the road, and he's going to get me estimates of that by Labor Day, he said. I talked with the bond counsel and our financial advisor. If we were going to issue any bonds this year, we need to get started with the process and at the end of September, early October. So we kind of need those estimates to kind of figure out where we're at. And I also indicated to Mr. Kreider that this would have to be the same style of bond that we had before, where it's a developer backed, and that we would only pledge the revenue from the TIF as a matching, and we wouldn't have any kind of property tax or any kind of other backup towards that, with the financials looking like we wouldn't be able to make the payment unless there's more growth in the area. I spoke with Amanda Ray a few weeks ago, maybe a little longer than that, and I think I forwarded you guys kind of her emails. But she owns one of the parcel that basically where the Lentil Road stops now, and so she owns that next spot, and she was interested in seeing how the completion of that road would play into kind of our plans and what kind of options she would have as far as getting support from the Redevelopment Commission for that. I believe kind of her concept is that, if she does develop her property, she would like to see the increment associated with her property to go to help to pay for building the road through her property.
Okay.
So I wanted to
Excuse me, I have to take this in there.
All right. So I think the thought is, and I recommended she come here because I think the RDC has a qualitative component to it where it looks at the projects and determines whether it's valuable or not. And I told her to bring her project to you guys to see what you guys thought of it. I did look at the amendment to the TIF plan in, I want to say 2007?
Eight.
The 2008, and it did include that road project.
So, could I interject right there, Jeff?
It's up to Lisa Abbott, but
Sure.
Oh, sorry. I'm not familiar with your.
That's okay.
You tell me. I'll just wait till it's my turn.
Well, how about I just recognize you right now, Ms. Ray, and then you can tell us what you're thinking.
Oh, okay. Just an update, and Iris was part of this. It's been so many years.
A long time ago.
We've a lot of water under the bridge. But in 2003, there was a meeting of the Redevelopment Commission where the current traffic engineer, Bill Williams, presented the route for what is now called Lennell Drive, the extension of the access road from the North Park parcel that's being developed now on the corner through our property to connect with 46. The Kreiders actually own a little piece above our property as well, right where it joins 46, where it would join 46. So this would be, I guess, the parallel road that you were just talking about, extending north from the Curry Pike on the east side of the intersection, going up to 46. This would be through our property. It's a family LLC, and it would go north through our property and connect with 46 at the top. So about a year of meetings went on, of RDC meetings went on before this, before Bill brought in the actual route and the estimate for it. Because before the summer of 2003, there actually hadn't, the commission hadn't actually approved any roads through that quadrant of the TIF. So it was, there were long discussions. It's basically about connectivity, and that that the TIF should have a connectivity through the whole TIF. And so I think that you might have, I copied some parts of some minutes from some meetings and sent to Jeff earlier that I think he might have forwarded you, but there was then a hearing August 27th of 2003 to whatever you do at hearings, vote on and approve and then transfer and be recorded in the recorder's office. Is that what you said, Jeff? For this amendment, the amendment being the extension of what's now called Lennell Drive through our property north to connect to 46. And there was an estimate included. I don't have it right in front of me. Jeff might. It's about 1.56 million or something like that. But
In that neighborhood.
And he said it included the bridge, that we have a creek that goes through there, and this estimate included the bridge over the creek. So then we had an approved PUD with, I believe Iris was on the planning commission at that time, but she has had so many roles. You could have been a commissioner. So about 10, not quite 10 years later, the Kreiders petition to that road that we're discussing, the extension of Lennell Drive through our property, was all written into was it 2002, Iris, the master plan of 2002 or 2003? It was written, it was so long ago. Anyway, I know my great niece was born that year and she's going to college this month. This was written into the county master plan, and it was also written in that they would start construction of Lennell, what is now called Lennell Drive, to meet our property line as soon as they started building on the corner of Curry and 46 there. They were supposed to extend the road to our property line, but then in 2011 they petitioned the Planning Commission to postpone that. They said they had financial difficulties. And so the Planning Commission decided to change their requirement that they would build the road to our property line when they had completed 50% of final plats on the corner there at Curry Pike and 46, which is where the healthcare center is now. And so that took 10 years for that to happen. And now, right now, I'm actually not sure, but they're supposed to have completed extending Lennell Drive to our property line in September or October. I believe October is their deadline. So we've been waiting for that to put our property on the market. It's about 26 acres. We have had some serious offers through the years, a couple of serious offers. So what we're planning to put the property on the market this fall. And so I was talking to Jeff, called Jeff with another question, and he told me about this agenda of this meeting, and that you were, the commission was making a list of projects to allocate bond money for in the State Road 46 tip. So I just, he said, this is the time. It's this portion, this access road. I just wanted I'm here to request that the extension of this access road be included along with your extension of the access roads on through the rest of North Park.
Okay, so let me make sure that I understand, because in 2003, I was not here. I was somewhere else.
Imagine where you were.
And so you're asking that if we go ahead and bond for the work that we have discussed with Mr. Kreider, that we also include the road that you are requesting be covered in the bond. Is that correct?
Well, you know, it's a complicated situation, I realize, because it's a TIF that doesn't have any TIF funds in the
Right.
treasury or whatever you call the pot there. And so Jeff has had some creative thinking because of the difficulties of allocating both the risk and because it wouldn't be fair to, I think there may be other minor property owners, but it wouldn't be fair for either the major property owner to take risk for a project on our property or vice versa. So the risk allocation and also Jeff was, just the access to the funds. So Jeff, I think it has begun to look into that with the bond. There were some experts, some financial experts.
The bond,
Bond counsel.
I reached out to bond counsel because it was a new concept to me, and I didn't even know if it even could be done, whether you could issue a bond and then remove a parcel in the TIF from the pledge to repay the bond. And so I was just we were having a pretty interesting conversation. I'm like, I don't know. I think that can be done. I don't know for certain, and it turns out I think it can be done according to the bond counsel. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be helpful if I showed kind of a map and talked about what we're talking about.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Do I have that capability? Let's see. Can you see a map?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when I talked earlier about the Hart Strait Road or the Hunter Valley Road connector, this is project one, is that. I think the other one I expect to get an estimate is this road, this number 2.
Could you show them the intersection of Curry? Maybe they know where the intersection
Right.
of Curry.
Right here is the current intersection of Curry and 46. There is one plan, and you could kind of see from this map, it's kind of already kind of stubbed out a little bit. This is the second one. And so our number 2 next to that down to here. And what we're talking about here is this connection.
And there's a stub directly across from the stub on number 2.
Yeah.
That's where the Lentil Drive would tie into 46.
This was
So
clearly,
it's basically almost a parallel road on the other side of 46 north.
and I believe this is your parcel right here.
Right. Yes.
So, Jeff, maybe I misunderstood your explanation at the beginning, but Ms. Ray mentioned that you had talked about doing some creative thing, and you talked about removing the parcel from the bond repayment. So can you just go over that one more time, because I'm a little lost in those details.
Well, and I'm not a decision maker. I was just exploring possibilities based upon our conversation and
Right.
talking to the bond counsel. You do have the capability when you make the pledge for a bond you say which areas that you are pledging, the revenue from what areas you are pledging. And he indicated to me that you didn't have to use the entire TIF, and you could carve out, say, a parcel like this one from that pledge of a payment. and that's, we had this conversation, what, yesterday or the day before? And so I've not gotten a ton of detail on that. I think that's something that if we're interested in looking at, I can get more. But that was kind of the preliminary inquiry, is whether it could even be done at all. And he indicated it could.
Hey, Jeff, excuse me, but when you and I were talking, we didn't actually discuss that. What you were talking to me about was asking them about issuing a separate bond, a smaller bond that would not be bought by North Park, but could be bought by the developer of the buyer of our property.
Well, and I guess to me, those conversations are connected, right?
Yeah,
The reason, if the RDC approved removing this from the larger bond that we're looking at now, then there would have to be a purpose for that, right? And then we talk about what that purpose is, and that could be one of the purposes, is that, this roadway paid from the revenue here with this. These are pretty new concepts to the RDC right now. I just want to make sure that the thought of this road gets reviewed, and the RDC has a chance to know that you had this interest in this project as well, and then try to figure out if there's ways that to make both of them happen if that were the case.
Now, you're not talking about trying to make both of them happen simultaneously.
I do not believe that we would have any way to issue that anything on this second parcel until in the future. I don't think that can happen right now.
I'm with you now. Okay.
I don't think we have enough information or details or anything to do that, other than explore it conceptually. And if it's something we think we want to do, we could probably look when we go through this process, make sure that we still have the ability to do that process in the future.
So I guess one question that I would have would be, two questions. So if this parcel were carved out, that would, am I understanding you, when the purpose of that would be so that, in this case, us as the owners of this parcel would not be responsible for the bond obligation that you were issuing for the rest of the North Park, or for the rest of the TIF?
Well, I don't think that's exactly correct in that, but I think the better way to state it would be the revenue from any increment on that parcel, which, I'm looking at, there's no development there, which would essentially be nothing right now, would not be pledged for that bond. So if something were to be developed on that, there would be revenue coming into the TIF district that could be used for a different purpose. If it's pledged towards the bond, it's got to go towards the bond.
It's got to, and by the bond, you mean the bond that's going to North Park?
Whatever bond it's pledged for, but yes, I think in the concept of the next few months, that's true.
So when you say the future, excuse me, one of the Lisas who was asking the question, because I can't see you anymore, but because I appreciate your letting me try to understand this too. So so you I guess it sounds like you discarded the idea of a separate bond. I was wondering if when we're talking about in the future, I guess I'm just trying to envision what happens when we have an offer on the property. Our property has an approved PUD that's been reapproved 3 times since the original approval for a multi-use sustainable development there. So if we sell our property, I guess I just want to understand and be able to honestly tell potential buyers that because it's in the TIF, it does have it will have access to TIF monies. But I mean, I guess this is what I don't understand. If there's no development yet, I mean, obviously the bonds for North Park and for the Kreiders were issued before they had developed anything there, the original bonds. And the developer is then taking the risk of buying the bond.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Essentially.
And then so if a developer buys our property or whoever buys the property, they then have the ability, as you say, in the future, when they come to you with their project, and then they request the extension of Lentil Drive. Is this correct? Am I understanding this right? Then they would come to you and say, we're ready for the extension of Lentil Drive now, and then sort of you have another. How often do these meetings happen where a bond, is approved?
Ms. Wright, I think that what Jeff is saying that if we're going to move forward, we could maybe carve this out so that it doesn't get included in the debt service for the other property, but we couldn't guarantee, at least I don't feel comfortable guaranteeing that a future buyer would have access to a TIF-backed bond without having some idea about what the project's going to look like. Does it meet the TIF plan? I mean, there are a number of considerations. So I don't know that you could say that they will have access to TIF funding. You can say that it's in a TIF and that they can discuss that with us, but I don't, until we saw the plan and knew what they were planning to put there and whether or not it met our goal, our TIF plan requirements. I don't think that we can tell you for sure.
I understand that about the other, whatever, curbs and guttering or things that a project would need, for example, in the health care facility that's on the corner there. But for the access road, for the extension of Lentil Drive, I thought that's just part of the infrastructure of the TIF that would be there, it needs to be completed to bring development there regardless of.
Well, for example, if you had a developer that bought it that decided they were going to put residential property on it, then there's no increment that's generated off of residential property into the TIF unless it's a residential TIF. I mean,
in like 20 years ago, it was the Kreiders had it zoned residential, and I went through a long process to get it zoned commercial. So it's
right.
Zoned commercial.
Well, okay, for now, but it could be rezoned, or they could request a rezone. I mean, so I guess it is really going to have to really depend. And I don't know that.
I see.
I don't know that we can guarantee you anything other than to say that we can consider your request. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, they have the ability to request. It's not that and Amanda and I had a nice long talk about the North Park or not North Park, but the West Side TIF and some of the projects there and how, sometimes the funding's there and it gets approved. And if there's no funding there, there's no funding there, but it's all has to go through the qualitative review of the Redevelopment Commission to determine whether the project is in line with the goals. And so I think it's true that if a developer bought her property, that they could come to the RDC and present what they want to do and see if there was support and to move forward, right? And knowing the revenue in that TIF right now, I don't think there's a lot of other opportunities other than to kind of look at it in that, developer-backed way. I think those are both true.
But now that we know what your interest is and what your plans are, we can take that into consideration when and if we move forward with another bond that's related to Mr. Kreider's request.
Yeah.
So can I just interrupt one more time, Ms. Lisa? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand. So so you're describing to me, I think, what happens in each of the TIFs when one of the property owners and the property is included in the TIF, then the process is, there's not a guarantee that even though the property's been accepted into the TIF, there's no guarantee that the project will be accepted. But presuming that it is accepted, then they're eligible for however you work, a bond or something, since there's no money in the coffers right now. if it remained, and there would be no money in the coffer for that parcel because there's nothing on it. So it would probably be something, if the project is accepted by the RDC, then it would be something like a bond. A bond is the typical way that.
Well, given that there's no funding really available in this TIF, that's pretty much the only way at this point, unless I'm wrong, Jeff, to get funding out of this particular area. However, I will say that we are interested in development of this TIF, which is why we tipped it in the first place. So I think that I think I can speak for at least the RDC members who are on here, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, that we would be happy to discuss this with any potential property owners about what their project is and what they're trying to accomplish when it gets to that point.
Yeah. So, and so did I just hear you right when you said, because I didn't even know, I mean, I worked pretty hard to get it rezoned from residential to commercial a long, long time ago. But are you saying that even though it's in the TIF, someone could still change the zoning, petition to change the zoning back to residential? So then they wouldn't be in the TIF anymore, right?
Well, no, not necessarily. They could still be in the geographic boundaries of the TIF. It just it would not generate any increment.
But isn't that the point of a TIF though?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm not saying that would happen, but that happens in a totally different commission. We don't govern that.
Right. Yeah. So I just was trying to understand. I don't think that's going to happen, but I just wanted to hear the answer to that because I was a little confused. So, okay. Well, this is all and Jeff we were trying, it's a difficult situation. The other TIFs are also built out. There's already, when someone comes forward with a project, you just decide yay or nay. It's what we want. It benefits the community. We'll forward you the money to build it. And this is such a different situation. And also it's a different situation because almost the entire TIF is one owner. So I just wanted to figure out, and Jeff was helping, how it would happen that if someone comes along and we sell the property, I hope in a year or two, that what would their opportunities be in having bought something in a TIF? So I think I understand now. They would come to you, and it sounds like it's not like an annual thing. It sounds like it's almost like on demand, that when someone has a project, they come forward and petition you, and then you decide whether or not a bond is appropriate.
If you have somebody who's interested, they should talk to Jeff and or Lisa, Lisa Ridge, as opposed to me, as a starting point. And then the staff would bring it forward for consideration if they felt like it met all of the requirements.
Oh, okay. I just want to get the timing. So it's not like a once a year thing that if you miss the meeting in which that happens, you have to wait another year.
No, we meet monthly.
No.
So, okay. Well, that's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming forward and letting us know your plans. We appreciate that.
Well, let's hope that we can contribute. There's a lot in the PUD that I wrote about bringing well-paying quality jobs to Bloomington. So I really hope that happens. I hope we can contribute to that. Okay, and thanks. May I leave now? Do I?
Yes,
so
you may. You are dismissed. Thank you again for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was good to see you, Iris.
Thank you, Amanda.
Hang in there for another 20 years, I hope.
All right, good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. You want to stop sharing now?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot I was.
That's okay.
Oh, it's helpful. It was helpful because I'd forgotten how that property related to the whole area there. That's also a long time ago.
We've got some feedback.
Yes, it's because Iris has her phone and her computer hooked up to the audio.
Well, I was trying to cancel. Sorry, I was trying to. It should be off now. Is that better?
No.
No.
Oh,
I'll just move.
Okay, that'll work. Let's move forward with claims. Lisa or Jeff or both?
Yes, and I sent out a list of claims last week, but Suzanne in the highway department sent me another claim this morning. I'll just go through the entirety with the additional one and then we can talk about them. There's a total of $99,829.83 in claims, and there are for 8 different claims. The first is for DLZ right-of-way management for the Fernal Pike Connector Road, and that's for $1,425. The second one is for RC1 LP, and that's for the right-of-way along the Vernal Connector for $24,120. WSP USA Inc. for the Curry Woodyard design is $408.86. And then we have 2 for beam longest and neff for the Curry Woodyard inspection. The first is for $3,902.27. And the second is for $665.25. Then we have a DLZ Indiana LLC for the construction engineering pay app number 15 for $6,345. And we have Kreider and Kreider for the Profile Parkway construction of $50,218.45. And then the one we got this morning was for DLZ Indiana LLC Profile Parkway number 16 for $11,745.
Do we have any questions? Lisa, do you have anything that you would like to add?
I don't, not on these. If you have any questions on anything, I know I can give you project updates and everything. So yeah.
Well, if we have no questions, I would entertain a motion.
I have a question. What's the total, Jeff?
$99,829.83.
Okay, I move approval.
A second.
Sorry about my phone. It won't shut off.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jeff, would you like to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Langley.
Yes.
Motion is approved 3-0.
Okay, next on our agenda is the minutes. They were included in our email last week. I hope you got a chance to read them. Do we have any questions or corrections?
I had one, but I don't, right now, I don't know what it was. Sorry. I can't seem to shut it off. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Well, if we don't know what it was and we don't have any other ones, would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I'll move, Lisa.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Jeff, would you like to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner Langley,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling.
Yes.
Motion is approved 3-0.
Okay, we have come to public comment on our agenda. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to make a comment? All right, hearing none, we will move on to staff updates. Jeff, Lisa, which one of you would like to go first?
I'll let Lisa go first because I don't think I really have one. I think I gave mine when we talked about the North Park.
Okay, I do want to make one comment about the budgets. When I send you the information for the grant funds that were created, those will not have to be approved because they're not really budgets. Those are just tracking accounts. When we put funding into those accounts, we zeroed out what was already appropriated in the RDC lines in the Tiff fund. So that's why it didn't have to come back to the board. We just took those appropriations that were in 2021, moved those to the grant fund. So we didn't have to ask for any additionals or anything like that. So you had already approved that appropriation into those accounts. We just moved them to the new grant funds. So when I bring you back the budgets, in September that you have in front of you today that you got this evening, those will not change. Those
Understood.
will stay as is. So I just want to make sure you guys were, once I give you the grant information, it's just kind of a little separate thing by itself. So I didn't want to confuse the two. If you want, Curry Pike, Woodyard Road, Smith Pike, utilities are underway. They're moving utilities at this time. So that is still on target for construction of 2022. Profile Parkway, we should be finishing up. We did our walkthrough. We have our punch list items with Kreider to finish up. So we should be able to close that out. When we did the opening, it was my understanding that we should be under budget on that project.
Good, good.
Vernal Pike, again, I already informed you that the right-of-way packages, parcel acquisition packets will be going out to the property owners by the end of the month. And that's Fullerton Pike Phase 3. It has begun right-of-way acquisition for that. The packets are being prepared. So we'll start sending those out in the next couple of months to those property owners. And that's pretty much what I have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Lisa?
Hard work, lots of work. It's exciting too, Lisa. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, Jeff.
I think I gave kind of my update when we talked about the North Park TIF, so I'm good.
Okay. Do we have any commissioner comments?
I have one, Lisa, and I say this every meeting, and I'm just going to continue to politely persist, but I still would like to figure out a way to have a conversation with the commissioners about a residential TIF and the potential of that. And that's something that I would request from Jeff as to the best way to navigate that, whether we have a couple commissioner RDC folks go speak with one of the commissioners or whatever the best way is. I don't want to put them on the spot. I want to have as candid of a conversation as possible, but it's really important to have that conversation. And so I would request from Jeff, and not right now, but before the next meeting, to let us know what the best way is to navigate that conversation, because I think it's definitely worth having.
I agree. Jeff?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you got that on your to-do list. All right. Do we have any other commissioner comments? Okay. Well, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn. I need to say comments. I may not be here on this end of September meeting, so sorry about that. I may not be available at all. So,
Well, we hope that you're doing something fun, but thank you.
no,
Okay.
unfortunately, it is not.
Okay. Well, sorry to hear that. We have a motion to adjourn. So I think we can be done.